Hello. So today we are going to discuss three movies: Lal Singh Chaddha, Rakshabandhan, and Karthikeya 2. As we know, right now in India, amongst all these three movies, the movie which is really doing well is Karthikeya 2, right? So we're going to discuss about, is really Karthikeya 2 a very good movie because of which it's doing roaring business, or is it something else? Okay. So we're going to analyze each and every movie, and we'll talk about everything, all aspects, and why some movies are working well, some movies aren't working well, and accordingly come to a kind of a summation or an analysis, a kind of a root cause analysis about why some movies are doing well, some movies are not doing well. Because if you look at it, there are two movies which are being spearheaded by two of the biggest Bollywood stars, and it's really not doing well. And the South movie is being spearheaded by a hero who really doesn't is not a big name even in the South film industry, but it's doing roading business right now in all over India, pan India. So what what is the reason why this movie is doing quite well while the others aren't? So firstly, let us talk a little bit about some of the movies. Okay, the first is Lal Singh Chaddha. Now, is Lal Singh Chaddha really a very poor movie, very weak movie, a movie which it's really not cinema, which we should avoid, which we should ignore, disregard completely? Now, I cannot go ahead and perceive how another person feels, right? But what I can do is I can state some facts. Okay. Firstly, I think the release of this movie was it happened in an atmosphere of extreme hatred centered towards Amir Khan. Extreme hatred, extreme. You could literally call it putrid hatred towards Amir Khan. Everyone just wanted to hate him. Everyone was literally prepared. I don't know whether it was organized or not, or whether it was a kind of mass hysteria. And the funny part is, it hasn't stopped there. It's just moving on and on and on and on. It just kept on escalating. Whereas Amir Khan himself, just before this movie release, really didn't do much. Really didn't give any kind of a statement which was very controversial or anything of that sort. It was something which he had done earlier, which caused the public ire, and it kind of exploded. It did not cause a public ire even when the movie, because of which this boycott Lal Singh Chaddha was being called. That is when PK was released. At that point of time, PK was a massive hit, and everybody appreciated Amir Khan's acting. Everybody kind of drowned in this kind of waterfall of love and kindness and amity. And suddenly, as soon as a few years later, when Amir Khan made a statement that his wife feels that this is not a country which she is comfortable living. It's a kind of, it's not tolerant and all that. Immediately it exploded, and then all these scenes from those movies started getting flashed, and it was essentially projected as Amir Khan going ahead and disrespecting uh, a certain sect of religion, and this was not correct, this was not appropriate, so we should boycott his movie. So that is basically the reason why there was this boycott Lal Singh Chaddha, this major clarion call. It started, it's because of that. Now, I'm not going to read into the sentimentalities on anything, because definitely some people were hurt, because of which they stated the same. Now, did this have an effect on Lal Singh Chaddha? Yes, it did. Let us not kind of just try to push it under the rug, saying that no, it's boycott Lal Singh Chaddha was just a passing fad. Everybody will go to the hall and watch it. No, it did have an effect. There was a certain segment of people who were affected by this. Essentially, the narrative was that you should boycott his movies because he has disrespected our religion, and secondly, why should you watch this movie when this movie is a copy of an English movie which came out years earlier? Okay. The third point was that Amir Khan was going ahead and projecting that same PK act, which felt very annoying considering Tom Hanks did not do the same in Forrest Gump. So there were three things which were going against Lal Singh Chaddha even before the release of the movie, and that is number one, the hatred towards Amir Khan, boycott Lal Singh Chaddha because he was disrespectful to a certain a group of people. Second, this movie was a complete copy of another movie. So why watch this? Watch the original and don't watch this. And the third point was Amir Khan was projecting a kind of a very stupid caricaturish thing which did not properly fit into this role by Tom Hanks. Okay, because Tom Hanks was a low IQ uh, person, but it didn't mean that he was like a Charlie Chaplin or he was like Mr. Bean making faces and having crooked eyebrows and all that. And based on this, a lot of other things started growing. That how can you enlist people like low IQ people into the Indian army? Because in Kargil war, when this was happening, you cannot. You have to be a very polished, very accomplished, physically well endowed person in order to go ahead and join the army. How can you put a person like him there when you can't even take orders properly? Whereas Tom Hanks' character, it worked because went into conscription or enlistment during Vietnam, so that's why he could easily be enlisted. Now all these things together, it kind of contributed to this movie's failure. Let's be very frank. People did not even go ahead and want to watch this movie because of all these factors. And they said, no, we will rather ignore this movie, we will not watch this movie. And Amir Khan is a very smart cookie. He has made a lot of money out of us. We are not going to go ahead and contribute to the popcorn and the coke and the movie ticket and all that bandwidth and go and watch this movie. If Amir Khan is going to bring it out after 6 months, we'll watch it in OTT. But we are not going to give our precious rupee to an Amir Khan. So this automatically kind of dented the first 3 days, which Amir Khan was banking on that people will go ahead and watch this movie. It dented the first 3 days. It did not open to full houses. The word of mouth was not good. It was kind of a mixed response. And finally the movie crashed. But the interesting part is this movie has not crashed overseas. In overseas, this movie has been appreciated. And it is doing good business. And that is a fact. And that is one of the fundamental aspects which you should look into, that it's just not worked in India, but overseas it is still doing good business. Then how is it working overseas? Why are people appreciating this movie overseas? The factor being this concentrated hate campaign against Amir Khan, it did work. You cannot go ahead and disregard this, it did work. Okay. Now, along with that, when this movie was releasing, Rakshabandhan also released. In Rakshabandhan, I believe the producer in her Twitter handle had said certain things about cow worship and everything, which was very derogatory. And even that was taken up, and people said that you will boycott Rakshabandhan also. So automatically Rakshabandhan also got jackknifed because of this. First factor. Second factor, Rakshabandhan. Why Rakshabandhan didn't work so well? Rakshabandhan didn't work so well because, let's be frank, people are really tired of watching these small town stories. There is a formula which came into being once Rajkumar Rao and Ayushman Khurrana, they all came in and they started making these movies centered around small towns and some kind of a issue or something. Even Akshay Kumar used it for Toilet. So you had these small stories, small homespun stories springing out of small towns in India, and they found takers because people could identify these stories. You know, a normal person who was going to watch a movie there, he could identify these stories. Okay, but this was a passing fad. This genre is right now exhausted. It has been sucked dry by Ayushmann Khurrana, because Ayushmann Khurrana has literally done each and every kind of a subset of the small tales which get homespun in these small towns. Think about it. Even Rajkumar Rao, Stree, where was it set? Stree was set in a kind of a small village town kind of a place. Even Rakshabandhan also, I believe it is that kind. The feel is that. I'm not the 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 basic feel from the trailer was that it's set in a small town where this man is there with many sisters, and he needs to go ahead and get them properly wed and everything. So the story could be very heartwarming. Akshay Kumar could have done a very good job, but people are sick and tired of watching these movies. They've watched enough of these movies. This kind of a movie which has this homely feel, and they've got this small family, and they're trying to grapple with a kind of a social issue or a problem. It's it's a kind of a sucked and right formula right now. People want entertainment. Okay, now people want mardhar. You know, Akshay Kumar comes with a. I'll tell you, if Akshay Kumar comes with a total action movie where he's fighting against the social evils, trust me, that will work right now. You need a good script. That's all. I don't think you need a good story. Also, the story can still be the same of this person as avenging man who comes and bashes everybody up. But you need a good script. If Akshay Kumar does that, it will actually work in the box office right now. Because this South Indian blitzkrieg which has come in, it has brought in a lot of machismo. It has brought in a lot of action. If you look at the movies which have really kind of spearheaded this South Indian kind of thrust uh, into this Indian fora, into this Indian diaspora, is name. Think about the movies. It's Pushpa, an out and out commercial entertainer full of action, right? Full of action, dance, emotion, everything. Secondly, RRR, electrifying entertainment, electrifying, full of magnificent set pieces, incredible action. I would say they borrowed the very superhero aspect of Hollywood movies, and they kind of put two people there, and they they kind of executed that. So it looked lovely, and that's why Hollywood has appreciated it. They can't even put a finger on why they are appreciating it. It is because they see that facet of superheroes and everything. Because these two guys, actually, they were like superheroes. Ramcharan and Junior NTR, the characters were like superheroes. They were doing everything, jumping, taking a rope, swinging from here, there, fighting, punching tigers. Right? Third movie, KGF, complete action, complete action. Fourth, Vikram, another action movie. Tell me one South movie which you said, okay, this is the movie, it's a soft and sensitive story, and because of which has really worked well. No, they have worked well also, but they have worked on OTT platforms, but not on the widescreen. Okay, so coming in the wake of these kinds of movies, which just kind of bludgeoned in, okay, and people appreciated them. What did you have? You had Lal Singh Chaddha and you had Rakshabandhan. Rakshabandhan was this homespun story full of emotion with zero action, and Akshay Kumar playing a very nice, sweet, pivotal role. Heartwarming tale of a small family, a small humble family set in some small town. Because that is the vibe which the trailer gave. And the second was Lal Singh Chaddha. That also didn't have any action, wherein Amir Khan seems to be playing a very caricaturish part of a remake, along with which there's a lot of hatred centered on it. These two movies were bound to fail. Not because of the content, but because of the atmosphere in which it was released. Okay, we need to understand this. Okay, I'm not supporting either of these movies. Let's be very frank. You might be thinking that I'm supporting these movies. No, I'm not. But I don't think it's Rakshabandhan or Lal Singh Chaddha are horrible movies, are poor movies, very bad movies. No, they are okay. I would say they are good movies. I wouldn't say they are bad movies at all. They are good movies, but they have released at a time when things are absolutely not conducive for Bollywood, and they got the whole grammar wrong at the time of release. The only thing both of these movies are like, you can say, they are at fault of is they did not understand the times in which they were releasing him, and that is very difficult to judge because you don't know how people are going to react to a movie at a certain time. You cannot guess the future because that is dependent on a lot of things, socio-economic factors, post-pandemic effect, the kind of movies we are getting exposed to. Difficult, very difficult. Hence, these two movies failed. It is primarily not because of the content, but because of the atmosphere in which it was released. It was released to an audience, a post pandemic audience, which was treated to excellent content on OTT, to over the top, insane, incredible action from South Indian movies. And now people were going to a hall and watching this larger than life, madcap, crazy characters doing what not. And suddenly you are getting pushed back to reality where Lal Singh Chaddha is just running and doing nothing. That's all he's doing. Akshay Kumar is tying Rakhi. It can't work. Try and understand. It won't work. Right? Some people are asking me then why didn't Shamshera work? Because Shamshera was a complete action movie. It was an action movie after all. It was an epic action movie. Why didn't it work? Guys, get the get the formula right. It won't work on Ranbir Kapoor. Ranbir Kapoor is not an action hero. Why isn't people understanding that? Ranbir Kapoor, the Bollywood audience have not accepted him yet as an action hero. It is a massive risk to take Ranbir Kapoor as an action hero in a movie. Are you crazy taking Ranbir Kapoor as an action hero, barbarian action hero, with a kind of an ectomorphic frame? You're trying to sell Ranbir Kapoor and you're selling Ranbir Kapoor trying to fight Sanjay Dutt. Guys, are you crazy? Like, I don't know what Yash Raj production is. Like, they didn't, like, who is in charge of the think tank there? Are they crazy? You Ranbir Kapoor is not a person. Ranbir Kapoor is a person whom we have accepted. The whole Bollywood, like, I mean to say, the audience have accepted him as this young boy or this young man who goes to these cathartic releases, and then at the very end of the movie, he either chooses his love, you know, or he becomes a man, or he undergoes a transformation. These are the roles which Ranbir Kapoor has done. Okay, or he acts very well in some biopic or something, like he's talking about Sanjay Dutt. Everybody's saying Sanju, see what a good movie. Sanju is a good movie just not because of Ranbir Kapoor. Let's try and understand it. Sanju was a massive hit because of Sanjay Dutt. There's a massive curiosity centering around Sanjay Dutt. Now suppose there's a movie called Sallu. You take an actor who just somehow looks a little bit like Salman Khan or something, and you release that movie in the market. Be it will be a world. It will be like a. It will break the record of even Hollywood movies. I'm telling you, because everybody is curious about Salman Khan's life. Same goes for Sanjay Dutt. These are the reasons why those movies work. So Ranbir Kapoor, before you can sell him as an action figure or an action movie, action like star, you have to work upon it. You just can't do it. It takes time. You need to kind of really sculpt a very interesting story around it. You cannot go overboard like this. This was a crazy risk, and I know it wouldn't pay off. I had my doubts, and it was absolutely like that. people rejected Ranbir Kapoor as an action hero, even though he might have acted very well, even though he might have put in a lot of hard work. But he is not an action star. You can be versatile, but don't go out of your main zone. Did Rishi Kapoor work in any movie as an action star? For how many movies did Rishi Kapoor act? Brilliant actor. I would say he's a better actor than his son. He was so spontaneous. But did he get out of it and say, no, I want to be Amitabh Bachchan? You can't. So that is the problem. Bollywood is not thinking. He's not thinking. They have certain heroes, but they don't know how to place them. And that's the reason why these movies are not working. Again, I'm sorry I digressed a little. Let me come back and let me talk about now. Let's talk about Karthikeya. Now, if you ask me, let's put Karthikeya 2, let's put Lal Singh Chaddha, let's put Rakshabandhan. As a medium, as a cinema, out of these three, what is my ranking? I will say Lal Singh Chaddha number 1, number 2 Rakshabandhan, number 3 Karthikeya 2. Now, I know that some people might just say, what are you talking about? Okay, and you don't know anything about movies. Maybe I don't know. But if you're asking me strictly in the sense cinema, comes to editing, direction, acting, sound effects, songs, everything put together, I will give Rakshabandhan and Lal Singh Chaddha higher marks than Karthikeya 2. But Karthikeya 2 is working. You cannot ignore that aspect. Karthikeya 2 is clicking with the audience. Why is it so? Because it's a completely new concept which is being sold to Indian cinema. Packaged in, I wouldn't say well, packaged in an average way. Integrating mythology with a somewhat okay, stable story. I wouldn't say it's a great story, and selling it. And selling it when? Can you believe it? Just think about the timing. It has been just released just before Janmashtami. That's the beauty of South Indian cinema. You have to give the marks for this. They know, they understand what is the thing which will click when. They know that maybe the execution of idea may not be, you cannot say it's probably perfection or excellence, but they know if I don't sell this idea right now, I cannot make money out of it. So they compromise on that aspect of perfection, excellence, the technical side and all these things. But to them, what is important is the story and script is happening, even though maybe it is stuck in a rut, little bit of a production hell. We need to bring it out because we know that this movie will work. And that is exactly what Karthikeya 2 has done. They have brought in a story which involves Lord Krishna, which involves Hinduism, which involves all the primary concepts and the principles of Hinduism, integrated it with a kind of a story which is very Indiana Jones. We have all watched Indiana Jones, right? People who have watched Indiana Jones would say that this movie is like basically a little bit of a rip-off from all his movies. If you watch this movie, you will say that this seems like a very faintly resembles Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade. So they knew that this is a new concept. You have to put in archaeology, we've got to put lost artifacts, we've got to put Tomb Raider, we have to put Indiana Jones, we have to put everything. But importantly, what we need to put in, we have to put in Lord Krishna. Along with Lord Krishna, teachings of Lord Krishna, along with teachings of Lord Krishna, some treasure and how his temple is guarded, which we know that yes, we do have a temple where we have a room which is completely guarded by snakes and we've got a court order out of it. So yes, it is steeped in reality also. It has a factual basis. Now put all of them together and you just release this kind of a movie. It will work. Nobody cares. Nobody cares about these leaps of logic or these missing parts when you're even the editing being a little jarring, the hero not being that great. Hero is not like at the level of Prabhas or Allu Arjun or anybody else. Okay, the hero just happens to be lucky that he got chosen for this role, and Karthikeya as a franchise has worked out. And it will keep on going because Karthikeya 3 will definitely come out after the success of Karthikeya 2, and they will make it bigger and better. It won't be difficult for them. They have got so many sources to fall back upon. They can just use Tomb Raider, they can use Uncharted, they can look at any one of those Indiana Jones movies, and then they just need to take some Indian mythological um, story which is long forgotten and kind of mix and match everything and take it out. Another massive hit. But see how intelligent they are. How intelligent they are. So, what is it? Why? How is South working, and why is not? Why can't? Why isn't Bollywood? I personally think yes. It's not. I wouldn't say it's a passing fad, but what now has become is that Bollywood will have to compete with South Indian movies. So Bollywood will have to quickly reinvent themselves and quickly start bringing out more original stories, interesting stories which people will watch, and people will only watch those kinds of movies which they haven't watched or seen before. Any remake or anything, they will have an aversion towards it and they will say, okay, fine, I would rather watch it at home. Okay. Moreover, if you are asking me what kind of movies will succeed more, they will definitely succeed wherein you have this kind of this hero which is rising from maybe below poverty line and striking out and becoming a massive messiah like Pushpa or KGF. These movies are primarily worked because of these two protagonists. They are rising from absolutely the lowest section of society and carving out a niche for them. If you look at it, these movies have run the most in the single screen circuits rather than multiplexes. Showing what? That they get a repeat audience. How many repeat audience you will get from me or somebody else? It is this marginalized subsection of society who are going ahead and watching these movies over and over again in order to live those dreams, in order to try and do something for themselves. And these characters are appealing to them. Pushpa's climax scene with Farhad Fazil and Allu Arjun was a total masterpiece, I would say. When he's asked about his name and everything, that's a brilliant. That's literally a kind of a clarion call or a kind of a challenge to that marginalized sector, and it works so well because finally, when Pushpa tells him that even your dog won't recognize you when you go back without your clothes, that scene. So it is very important to understand also what kind of movies will work, what kind of heroes will work. Did Allu Arjun come across as a very polished person? Pushpa literally smelt of the earth when you watch that movie. You could literally smell the dirt on Pushpa. That he was completely dark complexioned. He's got this hunch over his shoulder. Allu Arjun does not come across as this suave guy, something like that. No, and he really sold it well. Can Ranbir Kapoor do that? Difficult. I'm not saying he can't do it. It's difficult. Right now, it is difficult. You should stick to what he does best. I think Animal will be a turning factor for him. I don't know whether I personally think it might be a hit, but even if it isn't a hit, I think it is going to be a factor which is going to probably take him from one level to another. He's trying to cross over, and I like that aspect about Ranbir Kapoor. He's trying to cross over to another kind of He's trying to explore another aspect or another facade of his acting skills. But he should try and be more spontaneous instead of studious. And these kinds of small, homely things, it's very dangerous. Like Jayesh Bhai Joda, you saw. Small town, small village, audience is outright rejecting it. Even though the content might be good. I think Jayesh Bhai was a good movie. But these will not work anymore. Okay? This was more of Ayushmann Khurrana's forte. He popularized this concept. Now this concept is old and it is not going to work anymore. Even Ayushmann is moving away. Even though Anek was not that big a hit, it was not a hit, but OTT it was appreciated. It was a good effort. I'll make another segment on Anek because I do not put Anek into this kind of Bollywood movies. I think Anek was a very brave effort. It didn't work because of a loose screenplay, even the script, it was scattered. I personally didn't even like Ayushmann Khurrana's portrayal of the character, but still I felt that they tried to do something new. Yes, Bollywood should try doing these kinds of things, even if it doesn't work. It was the closest to what I can say a Jack Ryan movie or a movie I watched many years back called Green Zone, starring Matt Damon. I really liked the interplay of real world politics along with everything. So Anek was a very brave step for Bollywood. That was a brave step forward. Even though they might have fallen on their nose, but still it was a good step, good sturdy effort that I really liked. Okay. So I don't know whether I've been able to enlighten or tell people what it is because I just wanted to kind of say all these things because after Anurag Kashyap's interview, no, I just got shell shocked because I think they are living in a fool's paradise. They don't know what's going wrong with them, right? So I just hope I love Bollywood movies, and I don't think I need to at least I want to reassure them that they are not making um, poor content. Okay, I don't think they are making poor movies. Okay, what is happening here is the ideas which are being explored, those ideas are done and dusted. They're good as gone. So they need to quickly extinguish these ideas. They just need to throw this out of the window, and concentrate on new ideas, new scripts, new writers. They should give the writers their due. You get a good writer who writes a good script, let him realize his vision. Trust me, your movie will run. Bollywood or South or North or East, West, anywhere. But give that person that creative liberty to realize his vision instead of bottling it into these kinds of stupid formulas which have been existing for so long. Those days are long gone where you could actually flood the market with your movie. Anywhere you go, everywhere you go, your movie is running. So the person, poor guy, didn't have any choice. I have come here, so I will watch this. Sorry. I can stay back home and I can watch OTT on my white screen. I am not going to watch your movie if I am not interested to watch your movie. Get that fact right. And if I have to watch another movie, if that movie is even running in 2 or 3 halls or 2 or 3 shows also, I will make my time and I will just watch it. And that is exactly what is happening here. Think about it. You've got Dobara, you've got Lal Singh Chaddha, you've got Rakshabandhan, literally swamping all the halls. And you've got Karthikeya 2 running in how many halls? For how many shows are they running? But people are still going there and watching those shows. Those shows are getting houseful. Have you ever thought about it? It just goes to show that people are more interested to watch something, to read something which they haven't seen or read before. And the moment you are making a remake, the moment you are exploring an old concept or anything, audience nowadays, from your trailer only we can sniff it. I'm not going to waste my time, effort, and money to watch your movie. So please wake up, Bollywood. simple advice: concentrate on your script and story rather than on your stars. The script and the story will make that actor a star. Okay? Do that, everything will come back on track. And just wanted to finish by saying that last week, amongst all the movies I have watched, I loved Vikrant Rona, by the way. I'm just in love with Vikrant Rona. And I will make a small segment on Vikrant Rona because to me, Vikrant Rona is a kind of a landmark movie for me. I know many people might say it's just a kind of a normal movie, it's a normal South movie which has come and it's going. It was dubbed in Hindi, backed by Salman Khan. I just loved it. I am in awe of Vikrant Rona. So I will make a segment on Vikrant Rona. Out of all the movies which have come from the south, I would say Vikrant Rona in for mainstream commercial entertainment is a massive leap, a massive jump, and I would just like to talk about this movie more and in order to enunciate why I love this movie so much. Okay, but apart from that, I just wanted to say Lal Singh Chaddha is a very heart touching movie, and if you watch it, if you just drown yourself in that movie, again I've told in my earlier if you surrender yourself to this movie, this is one of the most beautiful movies I've ever watched in recent times. And I was a critic, I was a cynic, I was a skeptic. I felt that no, Amir Khan should not make something like this, should not make something so sacrilegious like this, try to take Forrest Gump and do this. But after watching Lal Singh Chaddha, apart from that small part where Amir Khan does his PK act, which was the major downside. If he hadn't done it, this movie would have gone to another height. This movie was perfect in a very imperfect way. And this movie was, I think, Lal Singh Chaddha as a story was was it ought to be told. Many people are saying why did they do it. I think no. Now it ought to be told, and I think in the years to come we will understand the significance of this movie. Uh, they used Forrest Gump as a medium or a means to tell a story, to tell an Indian story, which really warmed my heart. So if Amir Khan you're watching this, I would just say thank you. It was a good movie. Try and learn from your mistakes. Don't be such a star that you are. I heard that in one interview you yourself said that no, Atul or even Advait told you to underplay the role, but you persisted and you said no, I will play it like PK, the way you have played it. Listen to your directors. You're not. Now it has come to a point where people are saying Amir Khan is not that great an actor. I beg to differ. I watched this man in Earth. I watched this man in Rak. Amir Khan is an incredible actor if he's given the scope, but the moment he lets the star in him befuddle his thought, then these kinds of problems happen. And this happened with Lal Singh Chaddha because he he just did something which he felt which was not required. You need to listen to the director. You need to listen to your writer. If you had not done it, Lal Singh Chaddha would have been a much better product. Okay? Because after you pass over that act, after you wear the turban, we see a different Amir Khan. Everybody's talking about Amir Khan's PK act, just when he, in his youthful years, in Lal Singh Chaddha. But nobody's talking about Amir Khan after he wears his turban, after he becomes a Sardar. And He has given a brilliant performance. Nobody's talking about that. So, just wanted to share these thoughts of mine. Maybe a lot of people will not agree to it. Everybody has hated, like I would say, majority of the people have hated Lal Singh Chaddha and they feel it's a horrible movie. I beg to differ. I think there are some movies which you should watch, which you should just surrender yourself, which teach you to love, which teach you to care, which helps you be a little kind maybe. And if these movies have such wonderful messages, why hate them? Why boycott them? For what? Anyways, it's to each his own. I am no one to judge, right? I can just tell how I feel, how I felt. Okay. Anyways, I just hope you enjoyed this segment. I'm Mr. Shopjani. You can subscribe to my channel. You see the small button there. Just press subscribe, like my videos. I literally have a view and a perception for anything and everything. Okay, ranging from Karan Johar to Call of Duty to Sandman to Lal Singh Chaddha to Karthikeya to this to that, everything. I'm completely crazy. I hope you like this segment because I was a little serious here. I even do a few skits sometimes. So subscribe and enjoy. And thank you for sitting through this if you have. Bye. Take care.